Forgiveness and happiness. What is the world all about? The world all seems to be all about being angry, being about the past. We're talking about we hate you because of this. We hate you because of this happened 100 years ago and happened 200 years ago and happened 300 years ago, happened 1,000 years ago. We could never forgive the wrong you did to us 1,000 years ago. Because apparently, at this time, we're just as primitive as we were 1,000 years ago when you did that to us. And you're saying, oh, we can't forgive you for this transgression against our cultural norms, our cultural traditions. We've got this way, it's superior to all of yours because, well, we are saying that we are superior to all yours, regardless. Everyone's saying the same. From Angola to Chad to anywhere you go in the world, they're banging their chest and saying, hey, we're superior to all the others in the world. Some white people, of course, saying we're superior, and then rightly some black people saying we're superior because they'll certainly look quite superior on the movies and that. But the thing is, the world doesn't seem to get together on what basic happiness is. So it can't understand what happiness is, which is forgiveness. So it gets a burden off yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean you just don't forgive the other person. Forgive the other person, it means if somebody lost his stress, if there's less stress, right? I've let that go. So you've got more time for yourself to indulge yourself in doing things what's not about that person. That person, you've engaged that person in your life all the time by hating them. Or that person, I hate all those people. Why? I don't even know them. People are hating people they have no idea about. The world seems to be full of people, and in the media especially, of people who hint at sort of hating other people all over the world who they've never ever met. I mean, global tourism is a fantastic thing. If people go and meet everyone and think, well, people are in Turkey, they're nice. I went to Egypt, people are nice there. I went to France, they were a bit weird, but never mind, they're French. You go, went to China, people were wonderful there. I went to America, the people were wonderful there. And wherever I've gone, the people are wonderful. Let's go with a smile. I don't look like a rich person. And I don't understand why the world can't just be like that. All this animosity because we can't forgive each other because we did something 100 years ago, and because basically people all like that. So say you can't forgive them for doing something 1,000 years ago. Well, the person who can't forgive them is 1,000 years behind in the actual cultural evolution, because cultural evolution will be about forgiving, not enmity. Natural cultural evolution on a positive way would be about forgiving and understanding and learning. Because there's no money in it, they say there's no money in it. I think the people who say there's no money in forgiving and understanding and loving, they just don't know how to sort of understand what wealth is. You see, the problem is about wealth and capital, two different things. Or it could be the same thing, depending on your perspective. But say the capital, or you warm your house, or you pay a lot for electricity bill, but that's just money going out, but the capital is keeping your house warm and you're cooking your food. That's the capital. It's very simple. So what is capital gain? Capital gain is a sort of spiritual thing in a way, because you've got these comforts. That if you take away the cost of them, take away the cost of the comforts, and how do you have them for people with far less energy put into getting them? But you've got to have the people willing to live in a different sort of a lifestyle as well. Because it seems to me that a lack of forgiveness and a lack of intuitive, creative thinking amongst all the world's leaders is down to them being so preoccupied with enmity towards someone else, they can't work out a positive and creative solution to what are obvious problems: overcrowding of the planet, the anomalies in the climate, which are immensely complex set of understanding when it comes to the climate itself. Because regardless of what the cause is, the complexities of the result of the cause are the thing what we ought to be dealing with. The cause, you can't do much about it, but it seems to be on its way, so you're supposed to actually then act on what you can. Feeding people, number one thing, scaring the shit out of people is all well and good, but feeding people, how do we get the world in places where the food might be jeopardized because of climate? How do we get those people fed? That's what we should be talking about with climate change. Not how can we stop climate change? Well, go on and have a go. You can sort of combine the two. If you combine the two, that is, you can grow things which is green, which China's having a good go at, and as America ought to be doing that, what Australia ought to be doing, growing things, Africa, growing things what's green, which takes the CO2 out, at the same time reduce the amount of CO2 put in. And that seems to me a sensible thing to correlate the idea of CO2 being a problem with the idea of using that to a solution, which is to grow forests and to feed people. Could you recycle the CO2 naturally or into what the effort you put in to plant things? And that's what we're, if the climate's shifting and the globe is shifting, then you can obviously look at different parts of the world will change. You have to try to identify that. And how can you maybe some population may have to move from this place to this place? It's no good saying we've all got borders. Yes, we have, but those borders could change so dramatically because of climate change. Those borders could soon become sort of irrelevant in some ways. And so people have got to say, well, okay, we have to be prepared for people to move for some reason, but they've got to be prepared to put people into employment in growing food for themselves when they move. So it's not we're going into camps and sitting there for months or whatever, twiddling our thumbs what to do. No, the arrangement must be so it's conducive to those people being able to feed themselves. So it becomes a sort of a spiritual journey rather than a capitalist journey. And the capitalists are really super rich. Well, they can go and have they've got all the tech and all that, but let people live, want to, in ways that are sort of more spiritual and more to do with just feed themselves and having a simple life, 6 hours a day. I'm not talking about slavery. I'm talking about a spiritual life with art, work, leisure, and sort of enjoying yourself, as well as doing sort of essential work, what's spiritually fulfilling. And organic gardens and stuff like that are really a thing of the future. Forest management and stuff like that for many of the world's population, if that's the way they choose it. Because climate change will mean some borders will not mean anything anymore. It will mean they'll have to be thinking about where populations are going ahead of when they will be forced out, and prepare for that. And that's the discussion that they should be having about climate change and understanding, instead of arguing about it and fighting and giving barking orders out to people. What does net zero mean? What does net zero mean? And people can't seem to. You can sort of answer that, but I won't get into that. But what does net zero, making demands and saying, oh, it's sort of Australia's fault that the floods are in the north, which it's really misleading, and it does the UN and those people no favours to say stuff that make no sense. No sense at all. And let's work out how we can work the situation so we save stop more suffering than need be.